Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. So with us today is Christine Wilmot. She's the Northern Arizona Tribal and Regional Ambassador for the Make-A-Wish Arizona chapter, and her hope is to build and sustain connections between tribal communities and Make-A-Wish, and to strengthen relationships and trust. Christine, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Susan.
Super excited, and Make-A-Wish is an amazing organization and very important. So yes. I can't wait to learn more. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey. How did you end up at Make-A-Wish?
Yes, thank you. So I have been with Make-A-Wish a little over a year now. I am, like you said, the Northern Arizona Tribal and Regional Ambassador. I've worked mainly in building partnerships with tribal communities. But my journey with Make-A-Wish kind of started way before I even started working with them. So I'm also, in addition to my role, I'm also a wish mom. So I've had a child that has had a wish granted by Make-A-Wish. She had a wish granted last year, and the referral process started about 2 years ago. So we've been on that journey ourselves as a family, and so that kind of led me into the current role that I have now. I work remotely out of the Hopi Reservation, where I'm from. I am from Tuba City, Arizona, more so the village of Moncopi, which many who do know that area. It's right across the street, so I like to say that. And I work out of my community and really just work to reaching all of the communities in tribal spaces in hopes that we can provide more education and information on what Make-A-Wish does, and hopefully increase those referrals, those kiddos coming in so they can also experience a wish very similar to my own child's journey.
So is this a new position for Make-A-Wish, the one you're in?
It is. So my position is the first and the only position around tribal ambassador work or tribal work in general for any chapter. Oh. So almost every state in the U.S. has a Make-A-Wish chapter. We have international chapters as well. And we actually, Make-A-Wish Arizona is the founding chapter for Make-A-Wish as a whole. So it started here in Arizona, which is really great. So I would, think that's why they have the first position. They're very much trying to move forward and trying to do new things and try new things. I think they realize the reach in tribal communities, even though we have a significant number of tribes in our state, 22 tribes here, that those numbers are low for the kiddos that are probably qualifying for wishes. So my job, again, is just to try to reach those tribal hospitals, those tribal providers, those communities, those parents and guardians, provide that education, talk to them about how to refer a child and what eligibility requirements look like.
That's cool. I mean, I think it's important that, definitely. I've never seen that before, and so I'm glad that they hired you to do this job, and that you're getting the word out.
Yes.
I can't wait to learn more. All right. So let's talk about Make-A-Wish. What do they do?
Yes. So what do we do? So first off, to start, Make-A-Wish is a nonprofit organization. We have been around now for 45 years as of last year. So we're coming upon the 46th year. So we're happy about that. But what we do is grant wishes. And how it all started was actually not by Make-A-Wish. It was inspired by a young boy's story. His name is Chris, and he is from Phoenix. He had leukemia. He was 7 years old. And it was just amongst the community and his own family that this young boy wanted to be a police officer. It was just known. So the community got together and set it all up. They planned this wish. They worked with Phoenix PD. They worked with Phoenix Fire Department, and they granted this boy's wish. A few days and maybe weeks later, unfortunately, he did pass at that time, and this was in 1980. So the first wish that was ever granted by Make-A-Wish, and I love to share this story because this is something I learned coming in and actually working for them, was that the first wish ever granted by any Make-A-Wish chapter was a young boy that his family called him Bopsy, and he was a member of the Pascoyaki tribe. He also had leukemia. He was also 7 years old, and he was our first Disney wish ever. So first wish to go to Disney. Anaheim Fire Department shuttled his family around Anaheim and gave him this great, little experience. And the great thing is both of these young boys' mothers are still involved with Make-A-Wish all these years later. Bopsy's wish was granted in 1981. So, it's quite a while ago, but that's how it all started, is just really trying to provide some joy, in a difficult time for these kiddos and their families. And that's what we get to do. We have the privilege of being able to grant wishes for children with critical illness.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, it is such an amazing organization, and I know families that have been touched by it and have been able to participate.
Yeah.
So, what programs? Is there anything else? Not anything else. That makes it sounds minimal or minimized. But what programs do you have there? Yeah. Is it just the Make-A-Wish, or are there other programs that you have?
So we just do Make-A-Wish within our own departments. I mean, we have volunteer opportunities, internship programs, things like that. But literally, we're in the business of granting wishes.
Okay.
So that's solely what we do. That's only what we do. Again, we're nonprofit. So our goal is to grant as many wishes as we can. In the past year, last year to midway this year, but that would be our year term, we've granted a total of 476 wishes in that year. So, of course, every year we try to exceed that. Yeah, we try to reach every child. And that's our goal.
That's a lot of wishes.
That is.
There's 365 days in a year, and you did 476.
Yes.
So that's a lot. Who and what age group can utilize Make-A-Wish? Do you have to be under a certain age?
Yes. So our eligibility requirements are, we accept referrals for children between the ages of 2.5 to 18 years old.
Okay.
That's the time frame, the age range. Why it's 2.5 as well is because we really want the child to be involved in planning their wish. So a baby might not be able to articulate that. You really won't know what their interests are.
Right.
So the wish is focused around what the child wants. And so that's the age range, 2.5 to 18 years old. The child can be referred. They have to have a critical illness, so that could be a malignant illness, degenerative illness, progressive illness. Unfortunately, many people still have this assumption that it's only for children with terminal illness, and that's not the case. I know that was my own experience coming in as a wish mom. To share a quick story, when my child was referred, I was kind of taken aback by the doctor's suggestion of Make-A-Wish. And I kind of still had that old understanding of what Make-A-Wish was that it was for terminal illness. That's not the case. It took me a few months to do some research on my own, and that's really what we're trying to share, is that it's also for illnesses that these children may live long, happy lives with. And now with medical treatment advancing, many of the conditions, like the young boys' stories that I just shared, are now treatable.
Right.
And so back then they weren't, now they are. So we really want to make sure to share that information. So critical illness between the ages of 2.5 and 18 years old. And also the child could not have had another wish granted at another organization. There are other organizations that grant wishes. That's really our only criteria. And as far as who can refer, our number one, of course, would be medical providers. So it could be a nurse, it could be a doctor, physician, specialist, but also parents and guardians can refer.
So they can self-refer.
Yeah, you can self-refer. It can be a family member. The main things is that these family members would definitely need to know some key information, medical history, diagnosis, provider info. But we get referrals from parents and guardians and family members of these children all the time. So those are the kind of the referring sources we typically see coming in.
Okay, I want to go back to a second to the 476 wishes that you granted. So any demographic breakdown, like older kids, younger kids, males, females?
It's all varied.
Everything?
It's all varied. Sometimes we see actually a flux number of are little kids that are more in the age range of like 4 to 8 years old.
The littles.
And so a lot of the littles come in, but we still, it varies. There'll be seasonal where we have a lot of teenagers, and it really depends on the diagnosis. A lot of maybe if it's, say, an oncology diagnosis or a cancer-related diagnosis that pops up earlier, then that seems to be maybe something that's affecting the younger children, and it's coming up earlier. But it varies. We have a whole mixture of age ranges, and it really just depends on who's sending in the referrals and when we're getting them. So it could be any age.
Okay, so out of those referrals that you got, those 476 last year, give me an example of some of the kinds of wishes that they wanted.
Yeah, so the great thing is when we do have a kid come in and they are eligible for a wish, there's different categories that wishes fall into. So I'm going to break that down and then I'll tell you a wish story. So one could be, I wish to be. So we have like, I wish to be a mermaid. I wish to be a princess for a day type thing. I wish to be a pop star, right? We have I wish to give, which I love this category, is when a child wishes to give back instead of receiving something. So we had one young man from Flagstaff High School that recently in the past year, he came down with an illness that rendered him eligible for a wish. And his wish was to supply his football team and his teammates with new football gear. So that's cool. One. So I wish to give, I wish to go. Those would be our trip wishes. And it could be anything. My child was a wish trip, and her wish was to go to Japan. Oh. So, and some children might be, I wish to go to Disneyland. Right. I don't know if you all know, but Disneyland wishes are our number one request.
I figured that.
Yeah, so Disneyland is a really big one. It could be, I wish to have a puppy. I wish to have a shopping spree. It could be anything. It's really to their imagination. And the great thing is really seeing where their imagination takes them and what brings them joy. And once we build on that, we just help to build it for them, create it, and let them have that experience.
So what's the process? I mean, when you're saying like things like I wish to be or I wish to go or whatever the different categories, and then you mentioned puppy, I'm thinking, okay, I would assume you meet with the family and say, if I want to have a puppy, that would have been discussed with the child and the family, like, there's a puppy coming in. That's a lot of work.
Yes.
That's a long-term commitment.
It is. So we do a great job. We have a great wish team that covers all those parameters. Okay. We make sure that, if a child wanted a horse, those are expensive. We make sure that they have the means to take care of it. We offer support in the first year. But we make sure the family is willing to accept it. So one thing that's great is when we do something called wish discovery, we meet with the child, we get to know the child. We actually have them give us at least 3 different wish ideas, right? Because if it's, I wish to take a rocket to the moon, okay, well, maybe that would be difficult. So we pivot. What's another one? What's your backup wish? And so we have different options. We always coordinate with the family. We coordinate even with the medical providers. So we have to make sure that wishes are safe for children to enjoy. It could be travel wishes, but say the child's condition might not be safe for them to be on a plane for 10 hours, So things like that. We make sure we cover all our bases. We make sure that if it's something, like I said, like a puppy, that the family wants to take on that responsibility. And if not, we jump to another option because children have many wishes, and we just do a really great job at collecting all of those wish options and do our best to grant them.
Okay. That makes me feel better. I could just imagine like somebody saying, "Oh yeah, we're getting a horse."
Yeah. Yes. No, we definitely make sure that it will all work out and be great for them and not be a burden on the families. That's the wonderful thing about our wishes is we make sure to take the burden off the families. We make sure to take care of everything. Travel arrangements to and from a wish, whether it's a shopping spree wish, we're really supporting them all the way around because we really don't want the family to have to worry about these things. They're worried about enough. They're worried about their children's treatment. They're worried about their health. They're worried about a lot of those things. And so we just want to make sure that our families aren't burdened with it and we get to provide them with whatever they need.
Okay, so tell me a couple of your favorite wishes that you did in the last year.
Yes, yes. So I'm biased, so I'll start with one, my own child's wish.
You said Japan?
Japan, yes. So she's a dream a little larger kind of girl, and so that was her wish.
You think going to Japan?
Yeah, no, she loved it. We spent a good chunk of time there. We got to taste all the foods. That's what she wanted to do. She wanted to kind of go on a food tour and try everything, and that's what we did. A lot of walking, a lot of stairs, but it brought her so much joy. She came back elated and happy and asking when we're going to go back next. So that was fun.
Where'd you go in Japan?
We visited Tokyo. We visited Hakone, which is midway, like kind of in the middle of mid-eastern Japan, and then we stayed in Kyoto. And then we traveled back to Tokyo and to come back here. But one of my favorite wishes, though, outside of my own child's, it was a young man named Alejandro, mid-year last year, July 2025. His wish was to meet Canelo Alvarez, the boxer. And this young man happened to have, I believe, cystic fibrosis. Very strong, just great kid, and it's amazing. His video is on YouTube and on ESPN. He was featured, but he got to go on this great wish. He got to travel to Lake Tahoe, to Canelo, where he was training, and he got to train with him, and they got to spend time. It was just this really amazing thing. It's a really great video if anybody gets a chance. It's Alejandro's the child's name, and he got to meet Canelo, and it's very touching. It makes me very emotional just to see like something so small, probably to us, means so much to them, and
probably to the person who's well known, to the
yes.
famous person,
Yes.
So
yes, so the people who are asked to be in a wish, to the people who are supporting it, what we see really the impact around wishes is like, it's not just bringing this bit of joy and hope to the families and the child, but to the community, to the providers. We share the stories when a provider refers a child. We like to circle back and be able to share that experience with the medical providers. So it's just a great bunch of experience and joy that we like to share, and want to include as many people as possible. And we really have a great number of volunteers and donors that support us in being able to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, I just thought of a few more questions. Mm-hmm. So I know when you mentioned like cystic fibrosis, mm-hmm. I was actually going to ask that earlier. So that would be one of the chronic conditions that I guess mm-hmm. that would be called or considered chronic. Mm-hmm. It didn't used to be, but I know mm-hmm. with medical technology. Mm-hmm. So cystic fibrosis, obviously, then mm-hmm. you are accepting those children as well.
And so our medical eligibility criteria is very detailed, very specific.
Okay.
Oftentimes, like again, because it does fall in line with eligibility needing to be more life impacting, where it will impact their life overall. And that because of many advancements in medicine, many conditions that might have been more severe a few years back are now not. So there is specific requirements. And that sometimes is hard for the general public to understand. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand all those diagnoses. The great thing is the providers really know how to break it down and what would qualify them or not. So our whole process is when we receive a referral, we run it back to the provider. We have them complete verification, and we ask any additional questions. So we have a great medical team that reviews it in-house. So they let us know what we need to do to help deem this child eligible. And we go above and beyond to try to make sure. We would love for every child to be deemed eligible. But the criteria information, it's very specific. As long as it's really life impacting, it's a critical illness, and there are some that don't qualify, but there are some things to meet in order to be eligible.
Okay, so they're vetted. And
Yes.
then you said so people could volunteer if they wanted. And what would a volunteer do?
Yeah, so we have many opportunities for volunteers. We have things like our volunteers help with something called Wish Discovery. So when I was talking to when a child is deemed eligible, we reach out to the family and we get to know the child. So we get to know all the things, what they like, what their favorite foods are, their favorite snacks, their favorite toys, what they like to do. And then I help them identify at least 3 to 5 wish ideas that they want to have. Our volunteers are a big part of that. because staff in our in office are working to grant wishes, which is a lot of work and time. We rely on our volunteers to do a lot of those virtual visits and phone calls with families. We also have something called an airport send-off person, so an airport greeter. So some of our families have never traveled before. Some of our families have never been on an airplane. And so we have a team of volunteers that will meet them at the airport. And many of the airlines and the airports, like Phoenix Sky Harbor here, is really great at allowing our staff to walk them all the way through past security. So we'll take them all the way to the gate. We'll support them just so they feel safe. We usually set it up with like other airlines to receive them on the other end when they arrive to their destination. But there's so many opportunities. We always want opportunities in-house too. Our WISH office is in Scottsdale. And so there's office opportunities to help volunteer. And we also have an abundance of internships available. So we really have a lot of students from local colleges that come and work and do internships with us, and we love to have them in. They do great work and bring great ideas.
That's cool. A lot of opportunities. All right. And you mentioned donors. Mm-hmm. So where do you get your funding?
Yes. So we are solely funded off a donation. We are very fortunate that we have an abundance of very committed donors that support our mission in reaching every eligible child. We also do fundraising. So you might see here and there, like recently we had a Jack in the Box deal where you can donate $1, or different businesses might be willing to partner with us and they might do something like that. You buy this and we donate this amount of it. So that's really what we rely on is donations. We don't get any federal funding. So anytime, there's an advertisement or anything, we're really good at posting things on our Instagram, our Facebook page, and just that's it. That's the way we support it, is generous people.
So is that true with all the different chapters?
Yes.
So each chapter's different, right? And they're all separate?
Yes.
Okay, so like if you were donating in Arizona, you're just donating to Arizona?
Yes.
Not to California or Texas or whatever? Okay. All right, so I don't have a ton of time, a couple minutes, but I do want to find out, tell me like the funniest wish you can think of.
Oh, gosh.
And I know that's super subjective, and I didn't ask you that in advance, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, the funniest wish.
Or most, I don't know, different or...
Yeah.
I don't know. Something that's really special. I know your daughter's trip was, but...
No, there's some very interesting ones. That's the great thing is like hearing these kids' creativity. Let's see. We've had one where a girl wanted to be a mermaid for a day. And they set it all up and got her the whole flippers and she got to be in the water and that just made her so happy.
And where'd she go?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where she went. Yeah, I know it was a travel wish and they did that in addition. So they made it very authentic. Yeah, no.
Like where would you go out here?
Our wish team is so creative. So a child's wish might start as a small prick, right? Like a little drop in the water. And then our wish team takes it and expands it so much bigger.
That's cool.
And so what a child thinks their wish is going to be, it's exceeded that into something greater. There's some awesome wishes. I'm trying to think of, we have so many celebrity wishes. I want to share one funny one. My daughter wanted her second option for a wish. And I would have loved if she did this, but I loved her that she went to Japan as well. But her second wish was to meet Gordon Ramsay. She was very specific. She wanted to go to London to one of his restaurants, and she wanted him to cook for her, and she wanted him to sit there, and she wanted to critique him.
Oh,
knowing my daughter, that would have been horrible for him and wonderful for us, But that was one, and we ended up pivoting.
Does she watch him?
She does. Yes.
We've been watching his series again.
Yeah.
So every night my husband watches him, but yes.
Yes. And he's granted quite a few wishes for us too. So there's a lot of very wonderful people that take the time to do these for us.
All right. Well, we're pretty much out of time. So I know again that if anybody's listening, any of our listeners out there either have a child or are a provider or anything, to make sure that they reach out and talk to you, since you are the tribal liaison and easily accessible. I know you answer all your emails and all your phone calls really fast, and you've been great at communicating. how can somebody find more information about Make-A-Wish? And most importantly, how can they contact you directly?
Yes, yes. So I will share our website at arizona.wish.org.
Arizona.wish.org.
Yes,
Okay.
and that'll take us directly to our Arizona Wish website.
Okay.
And on that website, there's areas with volunteer opportunities, ways to donate, gives a lot of good information and history to what we're doing. And that's also where providers or family members can refer a child. So it's all done on there. You just click on the form to refer a child and it walks you through it and it sends it to one of our team members and we pick it up and run with it. If there are any questions directly related to kind of tribal outreach or any questions that might be in that area, you can reach out to me. My email is cwilmot@arizona.wish.org. And you can also reach me. My phone number is 928-395-5414.
Awesome. Christine, thanks for coming down and for chatting with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Coming up next on Native Talk Arizona, host Susan Levy chats with Joaquin Martinez about his upcoming book entitled The Super Generation. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 8800 22nd Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. And Native Health provides primary medical services at the new Guadalupe Health Center, 6725 South Priest Drive in Guadalupe. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org. Native Talk Arizona returns after this song. You are listening to Grand Entry by First Floor Highway.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy, and today on the phone with us is author Joaquin Martinez. Joaquin, welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am so excited to learn more about what you've been up to. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Okay, happy to do that. So I'm Joaquin Martinez. I am married. I have a daughter who's 19 years old and goes to college at the University of Texas. I was born and raised in Tucson. I currently live in Houston, Texas. I went to university at the University of Arizona. I have an engineering degree. I later went to Tulane and studied business. I worked in the energy industry for over 30 years, and I started a consulting firm about 5 years ago, and that takes up most of my time now. One other fun fact is that I'm a member of the Pasquayaqui tribe of Arizona, and I take a lot of pride in that.
That's awesome. And you said you lived in Tucson?
I live in Houston currently. I lived the first 18 years of my life in Tucson, and I do get back probably 5 or 6 times per year to see my mom and family, and I'm still active at the university.
Okay. So, and I know you said you went to U of A, so that means you're a Wildcat, not a Sun Devil.
I am a Wildcat, correct.
Okay, not a Sun Devil, though. All right. All right. So I know that you've written this new book that's coming out. It's called A Super Generation, a guide for first-generation professionals to build lasting success and generational prosperity. Tell us what it's about and why did you write this?
So the book is a guide for first-generation professionals. So those are people in their family who are the first to go to college and enter the professional world, the professional spaces. And the reason why I wrote that book is because I noticed throughout my career there were lots of things that other people were aware of that I was not aware of. So for example, social capital. I really didn't know what that was, and a lot of people, my peers, were very familiar with what that was. They were building relationships from the beginning, and I felt like I was at a disadvantage not knowing some of these things. So I think what this book will do will level the playing field, because I believe that talent is naturally distributed across the population. However, opportunities are not. Opportunities are concentrated to select groups. And what I'd like to do with this book is provide tips and tricks and guidance for those first-generation professionals that may need it, and those are the things that I wish I had 30 to 40 years ago.
So you've kind of said like what you want people to take away from the new book. What would be a couple tips that you think are really important that would want people to go out and get the book? Like, give me your top 3 tips or bottom 3 tips.
Okay.
Something.
So I think the first thing that I would like for the audience to take away is a newfound confidence in that the skills that they obtained, that they earned through growing up as a first-generation professional are very useful in the professional world. They're very helpful, they're very practical, and understanding and translating what those skills are into applicable business settings, I think is one thing that I would really like for the audience to take away. I think another one is to understand that there are unwritten rules and that relationships matter. And in order for you to progress in your career, you need to build those relationships, and you need to leverage the relationships that you have and use those to your advantage. I think another thing that I would like for the audience to really pick up is that learning is lifelong. Once you get out of college, your learning isn't done. In order for you to stay ahead, you have to continue to apply yourself in the areas that you like and become a subject matter expert in those areas of expertise. And in order for you to stay ahead, you continue to apply that year in and year out. And I think those are the 3 things I would really like for the audience to take away. And then those all of those things build up into this newfound confidence that, hey, I can do it.
Absolutely. And I agree with what you said. I think, everybody can do it, and and level the playing field and all of that. I also thought your 3 tips were really interesting. I think the relationship comment, I think people make relationships, but I think sometimes they forget, and I assume you agree or hope you agree, that you need to nurture those. And I think people fail to realize like it takes work sometimes, or it takes work a lot of times to nurture a relationship.
Yes, you have to be diligent over time, and there are ways, and the book allows for some practical advice to, like you say, maintain and nourish those relationships. Just because you meet somebody doesn't mean that that relationship could be advantageous to you in the future. You need to maintain contact. You need to think of different ways to connect with these people. It could be through sports. It could be through work. It could be through volunteering. There are a variety of ways to connect with people, and everybody's a little bit different. So the book comes at it from different angles and provides different practical ways for you to make those connections, just like you're saying, to nurture those relationships.
Yeah, and sometimes they take a long time. And I think sometimes, depending on the field that you're in, I know you're in a very large field in engineering and energy and things like that, but like in public health, it's a smaller community. And everybody knows everybody, and paths cross over and over again. And I think sometimes people fail to recognize that we all know each other and often go from one place to another. So you've got some great points that relationships and nurturing and things like that. So how long did it take you to write this book?
So I started writing this book during COVID in 2020, and I finished it late last year in 2025. So it took me about 5 years to write it. And I thought I was taking a long time, but in working with my publisher, what she said was that books typically take 5 to 7 years. So wow. I thought I was behind the curve, and she's like, "No, you're right on time." And I'm really looking forward to continuing with this creative outlet of writing. But that's how long it took me. And I took a little bit of time on vacations and after work, outside of my consulting business, to work on this as a bit of a passion project. It was one of the things that I really wanted to do with the encouragement of my wife, to really put down on paper what it is that I've learned, because I've always mentored early career professionals when I was working, and then it became mid-career professionals, and then eventually executives when I was a higher level executive. So I've always wanted to pass on, and I see it as an obligation, as a duty to prepare that next generation, because I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate with the breaks and the opportunities that I have been given, and I feel it's only natural to want to give back. And this, in a way, is my way of giving back to that next generation.
That's awesome. What does your daughter think?
My daughter, I've had her try to read the manuscript, some of the early work, and she has to stop because it hits too close to home for her. So I'm in a unique position in that I'm a first generation professional, and I remember what it was like coming up, poor. I remember what it was like to be on food stamps. But now that I'm not, and I'm looking at her, I'm seeing it from both angles, and she can't really relate to the path and the journey that I've been on, and I think it's too intense for her. I think some time will have to pass. I think there'll have to be some maturity that takes place before she can really sit down and absorb it. So it's quite an intense emotional experience for her, and it was for me in putting down all of these things, because you think, who am I? Am I an imposter? The audacity to write all these things down that I think somebody else would benefit from. So it's a bit of a step out for me. Typically being an engineer, doing engineering work is one set of tasks, and you're operating a certain gear. Now, being creative and having that creative outlet and really exposing yourself is something completely different. So that's what she thinks about it. She's read a few pages and she has to put it down.
But I wonder, I'm sure as she gets into the career, and she's probably college age or close to it, or whatever her path is, but coming out of it, and then when she gets her first job and she's a young professional, it'll be interesting to see what she takes away from it and implements, or what pearls of wisdom that she's gained from that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because many of the lessons, tips, and tricks that are in the book are universal, and they apply to non-first generation professionals as well. But I wrote it through that lens, through my own lens, and so I can very clearly relate it to first generation professionals. However, relationships, for example, like we were talking about a minute ago, relationships are universal. You have to build those, whether you're second, third, fifth, 10th generation,
Yes.
you still have to build and nurture those. So there are some universal teachings throughout the book as well.
That is true. And I try to teach my children that. And I try to also make sure that they know you never know who's listening and you never know who's around you. And I've learned some of that the hard way and try to teach them
Absolutely.
that. And they don't always listen. But so
Very true.
I wanted to find out, okay, so when you came up with the book during COVID or started during COVID, then do you like do a draft of it and then send it to a publisher and have them look at it and say, you know what, this seems like a good idea? What's that process like?
So the publishing process is a separate industry all its own. I'm used to the engineering world where we have our certain set of jargon, we have our approaches, we have our workflows and ways of doing things. The publishing world is completely different. And I had to work my way through it. And where I started was to talk to some authors in the neighborhood that I knew. Fortunately, I knew 3 or 4 different authors, and they guided me through the process. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to get a publicist. And the publicist really directs your path of where you want to go. Do you want to go to one of the big publishing houses? Do you want to do it independently? Do you want a hybrid? And because of the pluses and the minuses and the amount of creativity that you have on each of those ends of the spectrum, I chose the hybrid version. So I had a lot of control over the creative side, but I also had a steady hand to guide me through the process. So my publisher is my publicist at the same time. She's also my representative, and she has contacts throughout the industry, whether it be for publicity, whether it be for printers. So that's the route that I went, but you can go through the bigger houses or you could do it independently all by yourself.
That's cool. I did not know that. I know I read somewhere about your cover. Can you tell us about the significance of the cover, what's on it, and what it means?
So starting with the cover, one thing that I wanted was something bold, a bold color that you could recognize the book, even if you saw the spine or the back of it, that you would recognize it immediately from across the room. So it's this bright blue color that can be seen from 20 paces. The thing that's unique about it is that it has a monarch butterfly on the cover. And the monarch butterfly is the orange and black butterfly that's pretty common in North America. And it has a unique story in that every 4 generations, they have what they call the super generation. And this super generation was born either in Canada or the northern states of the U.S., and it makes a 3,000-mile journey from the northern states down to Mexico to roost for the winter. And so it huddles down there, and it, in terms of physiology, is bigger than the previous generations. It is built to withstand more obstacles. It's built in order to make that ultra marathon of 3,000 miles. So it's different, and it has different skills, it has different capabilities, it has different physiology, and that monarch butterfly metaphor is something beautiful that is woven throughout the book. So nature used as a blueprint is the metaphor that is the flow of the book. So for example, throughout the book itself, the first thing that the monarch butterfly does is that it consumes as much milkweed or as much sustenance as it can. And that parallels what young professionals should do at the same time. It means that you need to go and consume as much information as you possibly can. Then the next stage is to shed. And what do we mean by shed? Well, you need to shed bad habits. You need to shed old ways of doing things. And that's the next stage with the butterfly. Following that, it transforms itself into the butterfly. And so how do we transform as professionals? We continue on our professional paths. We take on additional responsibilities. We could become supervisors. We could become leaders of others. And then we have to overcome the different difficulties similar to the monarch butterfly with weather or predators. And there are things in business that you have to overcome as well. There could be racism. There could be lacks of understanding, systems that nobody ever explained to you. And you have to also protect as the next step. You have to protect what you have. So there's an element of financial literacy in what we have to do in order to protect the nest egg that we built. And so there's some basic elements of financial literacy. The other interesting thing is that once it gets down to Mexico, the monarch butterfly huddles for several months over the winter. And that also is a metaphor for us to huddle as individuals, create cohorts, so to speak, and those huddles should be healthy. So you surround yourself with people that provide warmth and people that provide guidance and people that actually lift you up. And so that's the second to final stage. And the final stage is to multiply. And so that begins the cycle again. So those same butterflies work their way to Texas and Louisiana and Mississippi, and they start the next cycle of evolution for the monarch butterfly. And the equivalent for us is to create leaders that create leaders. So me passing this to that next generation, I implore the next generation to pass it and multiply it so we can have that compounding effect, and you kind of get that viral effect and exponential potential of the following generations. So the cover, including the monarch butterfly, has very deep meaning throughout. And once you read the book and you see the butterfly, you'll never forget it.
That's awesome. All right, we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to find out, how do you think your cultural identity has shaped who you are today, and how has it affected your career and then writing the book?
So that's a very complex question.
I know, it's a big one.
My cultural identity is present in everything that I do. And in my career, I've worked around the world. I've worked in Africa and Europe and Southeast Asia. And it's quite interesting because in the U.S., I'm clearly a minority, but when I go into other countries, I may not look like a minority. So when I'm in Thailand, I look like a Thai. When I'm in Malaysia, I look like a Malaysian. So having the physical traits of being a minority isn't as prevalent as it is here. However, as soon as I open my mouth and they hear my English, they realize that I'm American. And so my identity is not only Pascuayaqui or Hispanic, it's also American. And oftentimes, as a leader, I might have been one of the youngest Americans. So I take all of that identity, that complex identity that I carry with me, and I treat myself as an ambassador. And so I try to show up and I try to show out as best I can, regardless of what I'm representing. And I could be representing Hispanic heritage, Native American heritage, American age, regardless of what it is, but that's who I am, and I carry that into every room that I'm in. Oftentimes, I'm the only person of color in my circles, but I carry that like a badge of honor. And if nothing else, you're being seen, and you can use that to your advantage. And that's also one of the tips and tricks in the book is that, you know, if nothing else, you're going to be seen, so you might as well take advantage as best you can and use that uniqueness to your advantage.
Boy, you are quite an eloquent speaker. So when is the book coming out?
So the book is due out on May 19th, 2026, okay. So about 3 weeks from now.
Okay. And so again, it's called A Super Generation, a guide for first-generation professionals to build lasting success and generational prosperity. Where's the book going to be sold? Is it like all major booksellers? Is it independent?
So where you can go is to www.supergenerationfgp.com, and there will be a link where you can order the book, and it'll send you to the booksellers, and you can order your copy there.
Okay, one more time. What's the website?
www.firstgenerationfgp.com.
Okay.
So first generation spelled out, FGP.com.
All right. It's going to be out in the middle of May. And if somebody wanted to contact you, how would they do that?
The best way to do that is to contact me via LinkedIn. You can find me by my name, Joaquin Martinez, and my picture is up there. And if you message me, I'd be happy to return your message as promptly as I can.
Okay. Are there other Joaquin Martinez's on there?
There are a couple of other ones. In fact, there's a Joaquin Martinez that is a councilman here in Houston. So not that one, but if you might get a politician, and I'm definitely not a politician. But if you see energy expanse and you put in the University of Arizona, then you'll get the right one.
Okay, cool. It's been really interesting speaking with you. I can't wait to read the book. I tried to find some excerpts last night and the last few days, but I look forward to purchasing the book and reading more and passing on some tips and let you know how I like it. But I'm sure it sounds like a great book. So thanks for coming on today, and I hope our listeners check it out and look at the book.
Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.